People do not abandon people. People abandon the reflection of themselves that they see in other people. Today, we are talking about the father wound with a focus on father abandonment. My name is Asha Mahari. I'm an energy healer, a self-healer, and a licensed clinician. My approach to all of these spaces is IFS informed. And if you don't know what that means, it just means that I work with the unconscious mind, which doesn't make me special because today, so do you. We are going to be breaking down the abandonment wound and mapping it out so that you can release it from all of its facets. When I say mapping it out, you can literally draw this if you like. It might make the exercise easier to follow, and this way you'll have a tangible depiction of your own ego before it shifts. What is the ego? The ego is everything that you believe about yourself and everything about the world relative to you. I'm explaining this so that you understand what it is that we are ultimately restructuring, which is core beliefs. Before we get into the map, let's understand the father wound as a whole. The father wound is a collection of pain points inside of us, related specifically to a masculine who was responsible for meeting our needs as a child. I am talking about biological fathers in this video, though father figures of any kind can contribute to the father wound as well. For better or worse, our parents teach us what love looks like, where to find it, what it costs, and whether or not we can afford it. If your father was not present, physically or emotionally, you learned a certain version of love that comes with conditions. In other words, you learned that love must be earned, enticed, or bartered for. Your ego doesn't know about unconditional love yet. But it does know that love is a survival need. It is. So what is it going to do? It is going to strategize. The ego is going to come up with strategies to obtain love. There are masculine and feminine strategies. These don't necessarily pertain to genders of people, although you might notice some tendencies. The important thing to look out for is where you might be employing some of these strategies yourself. Masculine strategies to obtain love: achievement, competition, power acquisition, domination. It's not an exhaustive list, but these are a big four. Feminine strategies to obtain love: seduction, manipulation, overgiving, and self-sacrifice. Some of the things that I just listed are not inherently negative, but they do easily become toxic when they're coming from a wounded place. Speaking of toxic masculinity is from the father wound. I will be explaining how and why in just a little bit. So now we are going to break down the abandonment wound. And by the way, if you are not called to draw this out, that is fine. You can visualize it as I'm going through it in your mind's eye, or just follow along in whatever way it is that you process information. So if you do have a piece of paper, I'll show you mine right now so that you can see where it is that we're going with this. And hopefully you can see that. So you would start by writing abandonment in the middle of the piece of paper and then circle it. And then from there, we want 4 spokes coming down with 4 circles. And in these circles are going to be the words structure, support, stability, safety. Now, underneath these circles, we want a set of open quotation marks. These are just placeholders for the negative core beliefs that we're going to be inserting later. Now, up from the top of your main circle, we want 4 more spokes. And inside these circles, we're going to write the words disappointment, anxiety, anger, and self-worth. And just so you know, it doesn't matter what order you have these words written. This is I'm just going off of what I have. Okay, and then a little bit off to the side or wherever you find room, you're gonna wanna write relationship to the feminine. That's gonna be another circle, so we're circling that. And then again, all around where you have these bubbles, you could say, you wanna make sure that you've got some open quotation marks. Again, these are just placeholders for the negative core beliefs that we're going to be inserting. You might have more than one per bubble, just so you know. And if you run out of room, you can just make it work. That's what I did. As we're going forward, know that this is your map, which means that everybody's is going to look a little bit different. If I name a core belief and it resonates, then you'll know because you'll feel it. It'll feel tender. but it might not resonate in exactly the same way that I state it. And that's great. If that happens, then rewrite it to the version that hits home for you. And if something that I say doesn't resonate at all, then maybe it's not part of your ego map, or maybe it's something that you've already worked through. Caveat, because maybe it's shadow. If it's shadow, then that means that it's part of you. It's just something that you are denying and suppressing. Especially if your first reaction to something is, oh my God, no, not me, no, never. Something extreme like that, that's shadow. So that means that it's going to be worthwhile to sit with a little bit longer and consider it a little bit deeper. But like I said, at the end of the day, if something is not hitting home, then maybe you don't need to be working with it. Likewise, if something comes up that I didn't mention, a different emotion or a different core belief, then do make note of that, please, because it's coming up for a reason. All right, so on the map, underneath abandonment, we have structure, support, stability, safety. These are the primary domains of the masculine. So what we are about to look at is what happens to us in these areas when he's not present. Structure. When a father is absent, either physically or emotionally, a child feels lost in multiple ways. A father provides structure to a family unit just by being there. When he's gone, there is a loss of structure that translates to the child feeling like part of them is incomplete. Also, when a father is actively providing structure, he does that through guidance. Now, I want to interject something before I continue, because some of you might be saying, but my mother was there, or my grandparent was there, or I had a stepfather and he stepped up, they provided guidance, they provided everything that my father didn't. While that is wonderful, that is also your ego taking us away from the point of pain. Regardless of whether or not you had certain things, it is psychologically painful to not have those things provided by your biological father. Okay, let's continue. Guidance. If being unguided made a significant mark on your childhood, then this is part of the structure wound. Some negative core beliefs that come from this wound are, I am lost. I have no direction. I am incomplete. I have to figure everything out myself. I make bad decisions. I can't trust myself. I need someone else to lead me. If any of those resonated, you want to write them in where you can under structure. And very important, by the way, when you're identifying core beliefs, it's always in the present tense. If you were to say, I was lost, or I had no direction, or I made bad decisions, those are not beliefs, those are stories. We don't want to be telling stories about the past, because this keeps us too distant from it to heal it. If the pain is being felt in the present, it means that there's a belief running in the present. So, present statements only. Support. There are different ways that a father can be supportive or unsupportive. In a nutshell, this one is about whether or not he contributed resources to your survival and well-being. If your father's absence meant that you and your caretaker struggled financially, then you have a wound around financial support. If it meant that you had one less person to lean on when you were sad or scared, then you have a wound around emotional support. If it meant that you didn't have a masculine cheering you on when you were trying something hard, then your wound is around encouragement. Negative core beliefs that go here. There's not enough support for me. I don't deserve to be supported. I must struggle to support myself. No one wants to support me. Again, if any of those resonated, you want to write them in where you can underneath support. Stability. When a father leaves the picture, this is inherently destabilizing because your construct of family has to shift and is open to continue shifting as your parents take on new relationships. If your father was in and out, this would rock your sense of stability even more, and for the same reason. For a child, family is your foundation, as in the thing that you are grounded by, or at least the thing that you have your sense of grounding built around. If your idea of family keeps moving around, then so does your footing. Speaking of moving, if you had to move due to some consequence of your father's absence, maybe you had to move closer to another caregiver or something so that you could have more support. Either way, this would also have created a stability void. Core beliefs here. I must always be moving. I can't sit still. Things around me must always be changing. I can't trust anyone to be around for very long. I can't trust anything to be around for very long. Change is pain. Change must happen through pain. I must keep moving to stay in control. I must keep making changes so that I control change. Safety. For this one, we're going to be looking at where you or your caregiver or both were not protected. This is the last of the 4 pillars of masculinity, and you're going to notice that they can all be connected in some way. Safety is one of those that can fall away when either structure, support, or stability is missing, because those gaps are openings for other things to come in and cause pain. Opportunistic people, people like abusers, gangs, cults, which you can define these things how you want to, but how they work, by the way, is that they fill the father void. Crises like major illness, mental illness, financial trouble, or being violated. And it's not as though a present father can necessarily prevent all of these things, but his lack of presence can enable them and also make them more difficult to climb out of. Core beliefs that could go here. I am not protected. I am unsafe in the world. Nobody wants to protect me. I can't trust anyone to protect me. It's okay for people to hurt me. I must stay on guard to keep myself safe. I don't deserve to feel safe in a relationship. At this point, let's talk about possibly the hardest to identify and thereby most shadowy aspect of the father wound, which is its impact on the relationship you have to your mother. This one doesn't always show up in the way that your relationship with your mother plays out from day to day. You might have a good relationship with your mother, especially if she raised you as a single parent. You might want to give her all the credit for doing so. But we're still talking about the unconscious mind here. So for many of you, this is going to be something that got buried. When a father pulls out of the picture, either physically or emotionally, there is a part of us that turns to our mother and says, "Why couldn't you make him stay? Why did you drive him away? And or why did you pick him in the first place?" This manifests as anger, resentment, and sometimes full-on rage towards your mother. This is an uncomfortable place for many people. There are any number of reasons why a person might not want to acknowledge feeling angry at their mother for something that she technically didn't do. And maybe one of those reasons is that she did plenty of other stuff. But we're talking about a particular aspect of the father wound. So that anger then, instead of being recognized, it sits in your body. And it can turn into physical disease, or it becomes an emotional trigger that you can't place the root of. The next thing I want to highlight is how that translates into your worldview. Because when you are abandoned, this impacts the feelings you have towards your mother and the feelings you have towards the feminine as a whole. When I say the feminine, I'm talking about women in general and the feminine energy you have within you, regardless of what gender you are. The most prominent example of this is seen in toxic masculinity. For those who may not be familiar with the term, toxic masculinity is a culture wherein masculine characteristics are embellished and glorified, whereas feminine characteristics are undermined, along with anybody who displays them. And now for the deeper psychology. Toxic masculinity is when a man's inner child competes for the approval of his father while punishing his mother for his father's distance. We associate toxic masculinity as a man's social performance, but women do display this pattern also. We just call it different things. I'm going to refer to it as internalized misogyny. Mechanically, it's the same thing, but with some nuance because women include themselves with the feminine. So this is what that sounds like. Internalized misogyny is a woman's inner child competing for the approval of her father while punishing her mother for her father's distance. The core beliefs that can go under this aspect are: the feminine is not enough for the masculine. The feminine is too much for the masculine. The feminine makes bad choices. I can't trust the feminine. The feminine doesn't try hard enough. The feminine is unlovable. The feminine is selfish. The feminine is unsafe. The feminine drives people away. If any of these statements resonate, it means you have them applied to your mother, to women in general, and to the feminine energy you have within yourself. So write them in under relationship to the feminine and be honest with yourself. Anyway, that's why we're here, right? It's to restructure these narratives. All right, so the categories coming out from the top of the circle now, or imaginary circle if you're working in your headspace. We have anger, disappointment, anxiety, and self-worth. Here we have isolated the emotional components to the abandonment wound. I don't want to say that these are the only emotional components. These are just prominent ones that I've identified. If you have other emotions that belong here, then we honor them as well. We'll start with anger. If you've dealt with abandonment, then you should know that your anger is very valid, along with all of your other emotions. Your anger might be obvious to you, and it might not be. When it's not obvious, that could be because the abandonment happened really early in your development, or because something about your upbringing made anger not okay to feel or express. In either of those cases, the anger gets buried inside of us, and as I mentioned before, can do a number on our physical health. Core beliefs that come from anger. I am missing something I deserve, and it's unfair. Life is unfair to me. The world doesn't deserve my joy. No one wants to meet me. People are selfish when it comes to me. It's better to hurt people before they hurt me. It's better to be defensive because people seek to hurt me. I deserve pain because it's all my fault. It's what it sounds like when rage is turned inwards. Disappointment. So I mentioned earlier about the in and out father, right? And so now this is speaking to one of the emotional aspects of that. I don't know if disappointment gets enough credit for how painful it is. In order to be disappointed, it means you have to start off from this high vibrational, positive emotion, and then from there, it's like being kicked off a cliff. You need to start with hope or graciousness, and these are such pure emotions. There are people that would rather do anything than ever be disappointed again, and I get it. For a child to be disappointed, it's felt even bigger because children are more sensitive to those emotional highs and lows. If you've been hurt by disappointment, that child, I'm almost sure, lives in your heart space. Core beliefs here. I can't be excited because I'll be disappointed later. It's bad for me to be happy. I can't be happy without keeping a guard up. I can't fully allow happiness because that will lead to pain. I will always get let down. Hope is an unsafe feeling. Love is dangerous to go in too deep. Anxiety. So abandonment does something to the nervous system. Remember, structure, support, stability, safety. Okay, these are all connected to survival. As a child, without any one of these things, especially safety, but really any one of these things, you could die. Your nervous system is wired to respond to what it believes are threats to your survival. When it's overreactive, that's what we call anxiety. Depending on your particular trauma response, abandonment could cause you to be anxious in general, anxious in relationships, or both. It can also cause you to be avoidant in relationships, which is still fear, just with the different face. Core beliefs along with anxiety are, I am not safe. I can never let myself feel safe. I am only safe if blank. Insert whatever condition goes here. I am going to be abandoned again. I will be abandoned again unless I blank. Again, insert whatever condition. If someone gets close enough to me, they will leave. People betray me. If I lose control, I will be hurt again. People are always looking for reasons to reject me. If I lose a relationship, I'll be lost. I must maintain control in relationships. The last aspect we'll talk about is self-worth. This time I'll actually start with the core beliefs. I am worthless. I only have value if blank. Insert condition. I am not enough. I am too much. I am not deserving. I deserve pain in relationships. Damage to self-worth is, I would say, the most severe mark of father abandonment. Now, here's the thing. The main reason for that is because the children of abandonment are shouldering generations of shame that is not even theirs. Let me explain. The father wound is the direct result of the wounded father. The wounded father is a masculine who, for any reason, is deeply ashamed of himself. When he has children, he is confronted with himself. A child could still be in the womb, it doesn't matter. Children are mirrors before they're even born. With enough shame and enough emotional incapacity, this wounded father will distance himself from his kids. So when that happens, the child makes it about themselves. Why? For two reasons. One, we don't want to make our father wrong. Two, it's because we are interpreting a feeling of unworthiness as our own. It's not. It is the echo of pain seeded from your father. If you were abandoned, you might have already been told it wasn't your fault. And if not, I'm telling you now, it was not your fault. And not only that, but I'm telling you that the shame that you've been carrying deep down inside, that's not even your shame. And I'm driving this home because it's gone the second you realize it. No one ever really abandoned you. They abandoned the reflection of themselves that they saw in you because they had low self-worth, not because you were not worthy. From a higher perspective, this is why you were abandoned. It's because you were on a journey to remember your worth, to anchor a sense of value that nobody gave to you and that nobody can take away. It's a brutal, yet beautiful teaching as soon as you can anchor this knowing in your heart. You are worthy by birthright. You are priceless by birthright. I know this because I know the divine. And I know that you are divine by birthright. But the person who needs to tell you these things isn't me, it's you. And you're not going to say it to yourself in general. You ready? Remember that map that you drew? You will have statements written all around the map in quotation marks. Let me show you mine again. All right, see these? So I have them written all around in pink. Each of those statements is a different inner child that got left in the past. I circled mine in pink so that you guys can all see that. These are your inner children, and this is what they're saying to you. For every one of them, there is a counter statement that will set them free. It's a key that only you can give to them, and that key is truth. Truth with a capital T. Now, what do I mean by that? Am I saying just go to your inner child and tell them the thing that's gonna make them feel better? Not exactly. I'm saying go to your inner child and catch them up to the present with your highest inner knowing. It is going to feel good because that's how you know it's the truth. It's going to feel good. It's going to feel like love. That is truth with a capital T. So set these parts of you free one by first meeting them with compassion, then by telling them that loving truth that they need to hear. If you have 15 negative core beliefs, that's 15 times that you'll be doing this exercise. Don't worry, it's gonna be worth it and you don't need to rush. Okay, so this is the exercise and this is how I do it. So the whole time I would have my eyes closed and I would be focused inwards. And so when I say I'm speaking, what I mean is I'm speaking in my head. I would start with one of the core beliefs that I identified. So in this case, I realized that there's a child inside of me who's saying, it's not safe to let myself be happy. I would repeat this statement to myself and then notice where it is in my body that it feels like this statement is coming from. Then, with my eyes closed, I would bring my attention to that part of my body and try to envision the version of me who's saying it. My heart feels tender when I say that, so that's where I'm going. And maybe I'm not sure, but I believe this inner child is about 4 years old. So I have my focus on my heart space, and I'm imagining a chamber inside. And I'm imagining that I'm sitting across from my 4-year-old self. And by the way, before you even speak to your inner children, your presence with them alone can be very, very healing for them. So I'd give her my presence, and then I'd say, I can hear that you are in pain, and I know why, and I'm very sorry it happened. I want you to know that the world doesn't capitalize off happiness. It capitalizes off unhappiness. So you're actually safer happy. Disappointment is painful, but it's not as painful as a life without joy. Joy is the divine, which means the more joy you allow, the more divinely protected you are. So that would be my capital T truth for this part of me. For you, it might be something different, but this was an example for you to see how this is done. A couple of things. Your inner child might have something that they want to say back to you. Listen and respond. Now you're having a conversation. As you're responding, you're always coming from that highest inner knowing. This is your higher self, by the way. Not everyone is visual, so you might not see anything as you're doing this. Look for what goes on in your body. At no point during this exercise do you have to get it right in order for it to work. As long as you feel something, it means you're healing. Because we are transmuting the abandonment wound, whatever you say to your inner children, at the end, they all need to hear this. I'm here. I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. I keep you safe now because you're important to me. This is self-reclaiming. When you heal the father wound within you, you heal the masculine energy within you heal men everywhere, and you heal your father. And most importantly, you remember that you were never broken in the first place. Will this healing happen in layers? Yes, probably. Can you start to peel back those layers as soon as right now? Yes, and so it is. My name is Asha Mahari, and if you want to learn more about self-healing, spirituality, or me, then please subscribe. Happy integrating.